And good afternoon to everyone. Please continue enjoying your meal while I try to inform you and update you on the CATS organization. First, I want to thank everyone here, especially the Press Club. I look forward to enjoying and developing a great relationship with the press. We need the press, and I look forward to that relationship. I'm joined today with our board president, Mr. Jim Brandt. Jim was appointed by the Metro Council in 2015 and was voted president of the board in 2016 and voted again president in 2017. Obviously a great leader on a strong and still evolving board for CATS. I'll tell you a little bit about me for those who don't know me. I grew up in Lake Charles, Louisiana. My mom and dad were both sharecroppers growing up, and my dad was an ex-Marine, retired Marine, and he was very disciplined. I lost my dad when he was 43, I was 17, and he instilled in me perseverance and being nice to everyone. And my mom took over that role with 8 kids at that time. When I finished high school, I had a basketball scholarship to play at Southern in Baton Rouge. But growing up in the Catholic school, the nuns got a hold of my mom. She's going to Deville University in New Orleans. I said, okay. Of course, when I got there, there was not a basketball program, but I'm glad I went, and it's turning out really well. I'm married, have 5 kids, 3 by marriage, and my career started in private industry with American Can Company, then Shell Oil Company. They both wanted to move me too farther away from home, and after losing my dad, my mom said no way, so I had to stay in New Orleans, and I got on with the Tulane University Medical Center as a manager over the Primate Research Center, and then Harry Connick beat Jim Garrison. Some of you may remember him, and he hired me to run the Child Support Enforcement Division. And from there, I did the Strategic Oil Program for about 6 years, and then the Regional Transit Authority came knocking on my door, and transit has been my career ever since. In terms of getting here, as was stated a moment ago, MV asked me to come over, and I won't repeat that, but while in that role, I saw some things about CATS that needed some change and some improvement, and a culture that needed to be turned around, in the transit system that was in desperate need of a turnaround. And seeing that, one of the things I did at the New Orleans Regional Transit Authority was earn an award for an annual award given by Mark Morial, the mayor at that time, for a turnaround agency project that I did. And so similar situation there as I find here now, and I look forward to making those things happen. I was voted interim in April, and then permanent CEO in October, and really getting started in January because I was being whispered, don't make too many changes. There's an election going on in December, and we want to make sure we get things in the prior before. So these are some of the things I want to share with you. We have a dynamic board, and I'm fortunate, being a general manager or CEO, it's important to have a great relationship with the board. The board leadership is critical, and that was one of the things that made me helped me make that decision to take this job on, tough as it is. I've known Jim; he's been around a number of years, a long time. Has a great reputation, and he has garnered the attention of other professionals in the city, in the metro area, and they're starting to join our board. So I'm really proud of that, and I look forward to continue working with that board. Just a couple of things. We have some handouts that I think we're given that identify some of the statistics about our service, so I'm not going to read those to you. It goes without saying that last year was a rough year for all of us in Baton Rouge. I'm talking specifically about the flood, the Great Flood of 2016. I think I know cats played a pivotal role, and I'm so proud to have the opportunity to give them credit. We had employees. We rescued literally about 6,000 people in flooded waters, and more credit to our group because a number of them had their own homes flooded or their vehicles lost. And they came and they were working 24/7. We were asked by the Mayor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness to do these things, and also by the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. And we're still doing some work with those. We have probably 600, I know for sure 600 individuals all over the state of Louisiana that still haven't come back home to Baton Rouge. I was called by FEMA just last week. There was a leasing fair and said, Bill, can you help us figure out a way to get these folks here to Baton Rouge so they can go to the leasing fair, get apartments, etc. So and my team came together and provided service for those folks, those who were able to make the trip. And it was after the flood, really, that I was hired as a permanent CEO. And I just want you to know that I had to hit the ground running to make sure that CATS was a part of Baton Rouge's recovery and resurgence, and I feel proud to say that. I believe CATS has a role to play in the future of this city, and I know we have a lot of catching up to do. This company, this agency, has been in the doldrums for at least a decade or more. The city has progressed astronomically. I've been seeing it from driving back and forth from Lake Charles over the years. And then when Katrina was here, I was here for 6 months, and the CATS took me in. I stayed in the trail behind the police department for 6 months and was able to recover. And I really owe a debt of gratitude to all the people in Baton Rouge and the transit system here. The biggest change you will see here are the new buses. You might say to yourself, well, what's the big deal about the new buses? Well, I'll tell you what, performance. Perception. We've been in the news with bad headlines about buses breaking down, people being delayed getting to work. When you see buses broke down and the kind of traffic we have, that's not a good sign. And then you look at the buses, they're old and dilapidated, and you see too many of them breaking down. You have drivers that are hesitant to drive them, you have riders that are hesitant to ride them. So that was a key thing, the image, the performance that I'm talking about that we had to address. So we were able to give you an example of how bad it was. Of the 60 buses that we put out every day for service, 40 of them were at least 12 years old or older, and the useful life is 12 years old. We had buses that were 20, still have them, 20 years old, 16 years old, 15 years old, 500,000 miles on them, close to 1 million miles on them, at a time when it was decided to expand the service and make some changes. So those same buses now had to do a double duty or triple duty, and it exacerbated the situation. So I felt it, and the board agreed, we all agreed that we needed to replace these buses. So following the direction of the board, you say to yourself, well, how did you finance this? Because 40 buses, that's $20 million, right? And so some of the things we did, we found out that CATS, the good news about CATS is that it had a number of grants that had not been used, can you believe? Some grants were like 8, 9 years old, 6 years old. And so we were able to get what we call in the industry a waiver from the Federal Transit Administration on the Bluebird buses. The Bluebird buses were bought almost about 10, 11 years ago, and they were defective, and that was one of the problems. So they gave us a waiver, and that waiver saved us $1 million because if we did not get the waiver, we would have owed the federal government $1 million because we were not using a number of them to their value. So thank goodness we got that. Additionally, those buses of the Bluebirds that we weren't using, the value of $600,000 for those was waived. So that's $1.6 million we saved right there. Right after the flood, I contacted the FTA administrator in Washington, D.C. and the regional administrator and said that there's another grant that's elapsing, valued at about $1 million, and we needed desperately to replace buses. And the acting administrator at the time sent an email saying, we want to help Baton Rouge. So even though she was able to have to close the grant, she reissued a new grant. So that $2-3 million, and then the State Department granted us $2.3 million for electric buses. I need buses. We grabbed it. Additionally, we're able to finance another 10 buses. So we're on a roll right now. So we have actually replaced 24 buses, another 3 coming real soon with the electric buses, to give us that impetus to change the image and performance that we've been lacking so far. And as I should point out, that's 24 buses within 90 days. So that means we only have about 6 to 10 buses that we really need to get after to get us going. The other point I want to make is that it takes, normally when you want to order buses, it takes 18 to 24 months to get a bus. So there's only 2 or 3 manufacturers in the United States that do manufacture buses. Or you might ask, well, how did you get buses so quickly, so soon? Actually, our chief operating officer, who just moved to another job, had a great relationship with the Gillett Corporation, and our former CEO had gotten the board to approve a procurement for 12 buses a year for the next 5 years. And with that good relationship, he was able to get Gillett to move the Pittsburgh's delivery up a few months, which gave us the opportunity to get those 24 buses within 90 days. I mean, that's unheard of. So that moves our average age from about 9 or 10 years, in talking about the bus, to about 2.3 years. You want to keep it in the 6 to 7 year range, but we couldn't wait that long. So unlike the past, we will manage the 2016 buses, the 2017 buses, and the 2018 buses so that we don't run into that problem going forward. And the other thing is the financial deal we made. The Bluebird buses were financed for 12 years. We financed these for over 7 years. The reason we did that is because you don't want to be paying $400,000 a year on buses that are 11 and 12 years old, and the maintenance and the value is probably $5,000 each. The other thing is that I want to point out is that as long as we kept those 40-old buses, we were paying up to $2 million in maintenance expense. I mean, that's huge. So we were able to accomplish that, and we're on our way. I want to note too that those Gillett buses are all Wi-Fi enabled, and modern technology will be a key in our plan going forward. Speaking of plans, I just left the meeting of our meeting with the strategic plan facilitator. We are in the middle of doing a strategic plan. And you say, what's so big about that? Well, I haven't seen one in a while, and I think that's one of the reasons why Cassie is where it is right now. You can't leave your facilities and your fleet and your equipment just to happenstance. You have to have a plan. So at the urging of the board, and rightfully so, we're in the middle of getting that done. And in the next few months, we'll have that finished, and we'll be able to share it with the public. And I say technology because what we find now is, in terms of technology, 2 people, 1 director and 1 person who's, I think call it a help desk. So besides that, we have spreadsheets. The only thing really technology-wise we have is the route matcher, is the automatic vehicle locator system, where GPS enables us to see where all the buses are at any time on any of our routes. That was not really working that well when we got here 2 or 3 years ago, and we've got it operating a lot better now. But we're looking for ways to improve it, if not replace it. The other thing I want to mention is that, excuse me, I've reached out to all of the stakeholders, a lot of the key stakeholders, the Baton Rouge Area Foundation, the Chamber, Center for Planning Excellence, the Capital Regional Planning Commission, the Metro Council, state reps, congressional delegation, trying to get their feel for what they see as our problems at CATS. And it gave me an opportunity to develop a dialogue, but also let them know what I knew, what I found, what I saw. And so we came to some conclusions on and we're getting great support. Went to Capitol Hill just in March, met with Dr. Cassidy, Graves, Richmond, a congressional delegation, and in particular, Congressman Graves was real strong with his support. He was real stern about some issues he thought. He said, why did it take so long to get rid of that Garden District bus? There's nobody riding it. So once I explained to him, he knew why it was happening. Well, you need to change that legislation. You know, that's too much bureaucracy. And the others were all very supportive. We have got to change the image of CATS not only for our riders and our employees, but for the general public. All the stakeholders will say, well, Bill, your people will vote for the tax, your workers, your riders. But I'm a homeowner, and I don't use the system, and I'm paying tax. You got to convince me, too. So we got the buses. We're getting ready to get a comprehensive operational analysis, which is standard throughout the industry. The last one done here at CATS was 2012, where you survey all of your routes throughout the city, throughout the metropolitan area, and you find out where you need to tweak it one way or change it, eliminate lines or whatever needs to be done. And that is what we're undergoing right now, getting ready to do a scope on that and get that process underway. Meanwhile, we will tweak those schedules and routes as much as we can. That doesn't require us to go to the city council. Anything over 25% of a change on any route, then we have to have public hearings, go to the board, go to the council, and then sometimes if the council might say, well, we're going to delay it, or we don't want it, then we have to start over. So we're working on that. So what are we doing to, besides the buses and designing the routes? We're doing some unique things. For example, we're going to create what is called a modified bus rapid transit route, actually two routes, one on Plank Road and one on Florida Boulevard. And you might say, well, what is a bus rapid transit route? Normally, a bus rapid transit route is like an express line. If you have 50 stops on this particular route, you might have only 5 or 6, so that folks who ride it can get to downtown or their destination a lot faster. We chose these two routes because we have a lot of ridership on both of them. They're two of our top 5 lines in ridership. So in addition to that, because we got the grant for electric buses, we said it would be really good if we could identify those electric buses to be assigned to those particular bus rapid transit routes. We will have, in addition to the electric buses, which will save us enormously in maintenance costs, within 5 years, I mean, you don't want to see transmissions and other parts and other motors, because the electric side really saves on, so within the 5 years we'll pay for it, and then there's no emissions, so it's a great move. CAS is not in a position to do an overhaul of the fleet right now because they don't have the facilities, but we can do this as a demonstration model both in Florida and on Plank Road. Additionally, we said, what else can we do to make this better? The Chamber called me one day and said, Bill, we heard about the BRT routes. What about Uber for the first mile, last mile concept? I said, you're speaking my language. We met with Uber. They came in from New York, and we'll meet with others as we go through this process. And they want to offer a discount service for our riders. For example, on the Florida Boulevard route, the station that we have out there, for in excess of 1 mile, they will advertise into those neighborhoods so those folks can come on by Uber to that station and get downtown in no time, and they'll have service downtown as well. So now they have choice. Our customers have choice. Our discretionary riders have choice. Not only that, we've met with the Baton Rouge Area Foundation. We got through an arrangement where we gave our software for our routes to the Bike Share Aid organization, and they're going to locate their bike stations by some of the key routes that we have, starting with LSU, then Southern, downtown, etc. So that besides Uber, you have the bike share. We're working with the organizations for Complete Streets, Road Dives, so that folks will have a choice. Millennials and the baby boomers, they want choice now, and we have to modify. I keep saying we're not a profit agency, we're a service agency. We're not looking to be the largest, we want to be the best. We want to fit into what's needed in the state capital of ours. Pedestrian walkways as well. So we're meeting with the different organizations to make those things happen, and that's what I call collaboration. CAS cannot work in isolation anymore, and I think some of the other organizations the same thing. We're invited to meet with the super regional commuter rail group, and we are having some discussions about how our routes can best serve that particular line. I was on the line in the service project, the study project 10 years ago on that same route, so I welcome that. The other thing is we've been meeting with other organizations. LSU, for example, they're looking into certain service they want us to consider with enrollment. Of course, there's the Touchdown Express, I think most of you are familiar with. And in the past, I noticed that we were serving thousands of fans to the games. But over the last couple of years, they've changed the routing system. So we're going to meet with them. We've put our plan together, and we're about to meet with them. We want to get back to the point where we can take hundreds of cars off of the road during these games. And you'll be hearing about that sooner than later. You heard about the procurement we did, approval by the board and then by LSU of the North Baton Rouge hub, a transit hub. We are, as you know, the medical district, we've been meeting with them, the executive director, and there are food deserts, and there are medical deserts, and so we know that's a strategic place to start. And I'm grateful to the board and to LSU for approving that project, and we will be getting there, keeping the press and the public apprised of these things that we're going forward to. So let me try to wrap up here. I don't want to miss the point by saying that I'm really excited about these projects and about the turnaround of the agency that we look forward. And so I'm just really grateful to have this opportunity to share this news with you. Because I haven't met all of the press yet, but I want to have that line of communication open so that we can tell the public what's going on and make sure that they know about the changes that are going on at CATS. We were sad to see, talking about the board now, we were sad to see Councilmember Donna Collins-Lewis leave the board because her term had expired. She was a huge advocate for transit and for CATS, and we would certainly miss her involvement as a board member, but she's still involved. She called me the other day about some calls she got, so she's continues to support us. However, last month, the Metro Council named her replacement, Councilmember Erica Green. We're excited to have Councilmember Green join us, our CATS board, at a time which is really critical for CATS. Under the leadership of our chairman, Jim Brandt, CATS is putting together a proper strategic plan I was telling you about earlier. We have some strategic priorities that are based on desired outcomes. And speaking of that, in the collaboration, I can't wait till we finish it so we can share with you the excitement that I have. I can't convey to you enough right now until you have a better idea once you get it. But there's one person I want to point out, in addition to CRPC, the STAC organization with AARP, DOTD, CPEX, all of those, that's also Mayor Sharon Broome. She has already been a huge advocate for transit in the opening months of her administration. She participated in the Southwest Transit annual meeting in Baton Rouge that we hosted at CATS, and she was one of the keynote speakers along with Sean Wilson, John Spain, and Justin Augustine, and was very successful. She also hosted our own transportation summit, and I mean a summit, because we have a traffic problem here that deserves a summit. And so we're working with organizations like Traffic with Crisis and the others to get for example, the Capital Regional Planning Commission has a long-range transit plan, and so we're starting to collaborate with them. They're looking at, they're doing a study now about park and ride facilities. Where would it be best to have a park and ride located in this city? So you see, I could talk a lot more, but it's limited, and I want to give you a chance to ask the questions. So just in closing, we've been working quietly but diligently on service staffing and strategic planning. So we are recreating the transit system that meets our needs of a changing city, and one that we can all be proud of. That's our goal.